Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start. Actually, maybe I'll give it a few, just so David, when he comes back.
Mhm.
Like okay, there we go. I'm gonna start letting people in now. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to get started shortly, right at 2 p.m. But if you are here with us, make sure you utilize the chat box to let us know where you're joining us from, your organization, city, state. We can say hello to you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for just joining us. Welcome to Innovate to Elevate, Breakthroughs in Donor Acquisition with Matching Gifts, Personalized Touchpoints, and Advanced Fundraising Strategies. We're going to get started right at 2 p.m., but if you are joining us, make sure you say hello in the chat box. As this is a webinar, your camera and microphone will be disabled, just because we don't want too many people speaking at once. We want to give our presenters a chance to have the floor and talk. So that's why you're not being able to access the microphone or camera right now. But drop a hello, let us know where you're joining us from. We're going to get started shortly. All right, everyone. Well, we do have a few more people filtering in. I see we have people joining us from all over the country and across the world. This session will be recorded, and you will be receiving a copy of the recording and the PowerPoint deck following the session. So no need to write down anything you see on the slides. Feel free to take your own notes, but you will get a copy of this deck and the recording from today. I'm going to go ahead and get started because we want to start right at 2 p.m. to make sure we get you out of here on time for the rest of your day, and to make sure we get all this great material into one session. So if you're just joining us, make sure you drop a hello into the chat box, but let's go ahead and get started. So hello, everyone. Welcome to Innovate to Elevate, Breakthroughs in Donor Acquisition with Matching Gifts, Personalized Touch Points, and Advanced Fundraising Strategies. Today, we're going to do some welcome and introductions from our amazing panelists that we have. We're going to hear a little bit from you, talk about some of the biggest challenges nonprofits are facing today, and then also provide you with some strategies for donor acquisition through personalized touch points and matching gifts. And we're going to talk a little bit about the technology you can use to achieve that, and then answer any questions and answers you do have. And we will be answering questions throughout the session as well. So feel free to submit those in the Q&A and chat box. To start off, I want to introduce Chris Fink. He is our Chief Operating Officer here at Arreva. Thanks for being here today, Chris. Mm-hmm. We have David Blyer, who is the co-founder and CEO of Arreva. Hi, David. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Gabby. Thanks for putting this on. Very excited to do this today. Thank you.
Yes. And then we have Mackenzie Birch-Buckler, who is the Partnership Success and Marketing Specialist with Double the Donation. Thanks for being here, Mackenzie.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Excited for this one.
Yes. And I'm Gabriella Slimmy. I'm the Digital Marketing Manager here, and I'll be hosting our session today. So to get started, we want to go ahead and hear from our audience. The first question, you're going to see a poll pop up on your screen, and go ahead and answer that. It's just, do you feel your donor acquisition is getting easier or harder year after year? If you feel it's getting easier, then you can answer that. I'd be surprised if that's the majority, but maybe you feel it's getting harder, or maybe you feel that it's remained the same. So go ahead and let us know how your donor acquisition experience has been. Give it a few more seconds because we have a lot of answers coming in. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end that, and then I'll put those results up for everyone to see. So the majority seem to say harder, with a few people saying remain the same, and slight amount of people saying easier, which is interesting to see. Okay, our next poll, I'm going to go ahead and get that ready to come up. So what we would like to know next is how many applications are you currently using to manage donor activity? So this can be everything from managing your events to managing memberships, donation pages, grants, peer-to-peer fundraising, team fundraising. Are you using multiple applications that they don't communicate with each other, and thus you're having to do duplicate entry? Maybe you haven't realized how many different solutions you're using and how many of them don't communicate with each other. And this can actually be something that greatly affects your donor acquisition, which we'll talk a little bit more about later on today, but we just want to get a feel for the room and where everybody stands. And yes, the session will be recorded and sent to you for anyone who is asking, and you will get a copy of the PowerPoint. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put these results up. The majority of you tend to be using 2 or 3 applications to manage your donor activity, with a handful of you using 1 and then 4 or 5 or more, which is interesting to see as well. Okay, and then we have one more poll for you. We can go ahead and switch that slide. So this one is about corporate matching gifts. Have you ever leveraged corporate matching gift opportunities within your fundraising and donor outreach efforts before? Maybe you're not familiar with corporate matching gifts. Maybe you think it's too complicated to get something like that into place. And Mackenzie is going to show you that it's not at all. It's actually very simple. But we would like to know how many of you have used the corporate matching gifts before. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share these results. So it seems like the majority have used, with a few not having used, and then a few people who aren't sure. But that's great. That's what we're here for. We're going to show you ways to improve and to implement corporate matching gifts. Okay. Thank you for answering our questions, everyone. I'm going to pass it over to our panelists now.
Thanks, Gabby. That poll was awesome, and it was very helpful to set the stage on what we're presenting today. And I just want to thank Mackenzie and Chris for joining the panel conversation. And I think we're going to get a lot out of this today. And if you have any questions, just feel free to make this extremely as interactive as you would like. But we do see some of the biggest challenges today facing all of you. And really in those three categories that we're seeing is it's really about donor acquisition and donor engagement and donor retention. And today we're only speaking about donor acquisition, and I know this is going to be a very short time, so hopefully you'll get a lot out of it. And if you want more, feel free to reach out to us. But again, just from the statistics, it's just reinforcing what's going on in general, and this is just across the board. I know some of you said it's getting easier, which is wonderful. Some of you are saying, the majority of you saying it's getting harder, and the statistics just show that. But there's a decline on all fronts, right? A decline on the donor acquisition. There's a decline on donor retention. There's a decline on engagement. And we'll talk a lot about that today. Chris, Mackenzie, do you want to share anything else on that front?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the fact is, I don't want to sound too doom and gloom, but the fact is, nonprofits, I mean, they've benefited from just unprecedented growth, David and Mackenzie, over the last 10 years. But then as of 2023, 2024, major donors are declining. They're donating almost 10% less overall in 2023. Retentions decreased, right, across all donor categories in 2023, falling almost 20%. And then new donor counts, which is we're talking about acquisition here, right, have also fell by just under 20%, and they gave 34% less in 2023. So you need to address donor acquisition and retention. It's just imperative for all nonprofits.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I know that it's challenging, but I think that the good news is that we're all kind of in this together, right? It's a trend that we're seeing across the board, and there are solutions to really help your nonprofit kind of overcome those challenges too, which I'm excited for us to talk through today.
All right, donor acquisition. So we're going to talk a lot about that today. It's really all about identifying and engaging with new potential donors, right, to grow your donor base. But not only just to sustain, your daily operations, but really to expand the impact your organization has, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I mean, there's statistics here that are, that back this up, right? That acquisition is imperative, right?
I mean, you're right, Chris. I mean, it's not surprising, but 53% of all nonprofits in the US are saying that the donor acquisition is their number one of their organization's top three fundraising challenges. So we all know there's an increased competition for donor attention. I mean, it just speaks volumes of what's going on in the industry.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's increased competition for your donors' attention from these organizations. They're a lot of nonprofits getting more sophisticated in their outreach. And there are changing demographics. There's fewer donations to go around, as I mentioned earlier. There are larger gifts coming in from fewer people, but that means you have to be more targeted. You have to understand what your donor's capacity and affinity towards your organization is, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's really key to all nonprofits' long-term success to address this. And like Mackenzie just said, it's a solvable issue, and that's what we'll talk about here.
So let's get started and just talk about some of the reasons why this is happening, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, economic conditions are an issue. I mean, there's an interesting fact just to talk about the economic uncertainty. Total charitable giving has fallen only 3 times in the last 40 years in current dollars. And that was in 87, 2008, and 2009. And those are all times of economic uncertainty. So I know there's some debate about whether we are in economic uncertain times, but I think the donors are behaving that way, and that's what really matters. So the reality is, we are seeing a decline in donations and new donors, and unfortunately this means doing more with less for a lot of organizations out there, and they need to be as efficient as possible in these times, and have really, I think we'll talk a little bit how we can solve those issues.
Yeah, and I think there's so many other factors, Chris, right? I mean, in Mackenzie, the demographics, people were, because of COVID, and it wasn't just a trickle effect, it's still moving on. People are moving away from their original communities. They're leaving and joining new communities. I mean, even with that, how do these nonprofits attract those type of donors? Where are they coming from? How do they locate them? What do they do for the ones that have left? I mean, how do they offset that of people moving in? I mean, there's a lot of different changing conditions. And then, when you're really thinking about that outreach, about the reasons why nonprofits are struggling with the donor acquisition and acquiring them, it also resonates with other factors, like how are you communicating and personalizing communications and campaigns to the individuals, that whether they're existing, whether they're new, whether they came to an event, how are you communicating with them? Are you communicating in the most efficient way? Are you resonating with truly a consistent message with the right audience? And you'll hear a lot about that today, right? It's not, I really believe it's not one size fits all anymore. It's not your organization and sending one email marketing campaign, but we'll talk about segmenting and talk about better ways of communicating, talking about the effectiveness when donations are coming in or matching gifts are coming in, and how that really resonates and is impacting, and how do you tell those stories better, right? How do you tell those stories differently? How do you communicate those stories? And then you got to make it easy for yourself. And one of the challenges is technology. I mean, you've got to make technology easy for you. And we talk about this, and we hear a lot about it. And there's a lot of great software out there. I mean, one thing you'll hear is nothing negative about any software, but the problem is a lot of them are siloed. So when they're siloed applications and they're siloed databases, and you've got to move that data into one platform, into your donor relationship management platform, is that helping you be efficient? Is it allowing you to give that best practice capabilities by responding on an efficient way? Are you having the abilities to really capture and analyze the data and segment those donors to really provide you in a smooth, easy way to communicate with them and the right audience in a different way? I mean, there's a lot of different factors. It's not one major factor. I think it's a lot of different factors. And, we'll talk about each one of those.
Yeah. And just if I could add to David, I think, this idea of making sure that we're super targeted with donors and looking at your data kind of in that holistic way. I think it's really powerful, because what that's going to enable you to do is communicate with donors and offer them opportunities that would be of personal interest, right? So helping donors get involved in ways that make the most sense for them is ultimately going to aid that acquisition and really build the foundation for you to have a strong relationship. I know we're talking a lot about acquisition, but we mentioned retention being an issue too. So if you can get that donor initially involved in a way that's like very personally meaningful for them, you're going to be able to grow that relationship over time and really strengthen it too. So acquiring them in the right way, I think, can be really influential.
Yeah, that personalized touch, Mackenzie, is a great thought. Yes.
Awesome.
David, just to interject, there was a question that came in from Charlotte, and she wants to know, what is the best all-encompassing software for some of those challenges that you listed?
Well, I'm going to be a little biased, from my perspective. And I really think when you analyze software, you really do look for what I would consider what an all-in-one is. And I know, and I'm happy about it, because a lot of vendors out there are doing that. And I think a lot of vendors are really striving to do a good job at that too. But I do believe there's only one company out there that is truly the only all-in-one, as far as a fundraising, a donor relationship management, a healthcare hospitality, and auction software, as an all-in-one with one unified database that's fully integrated and automated. And I think there's other vendors that are out there that are doing it similar, but I don't think they have all of these applications that would include grant management and campaign management and text-based donations and peer-to-peer fundraising and team fundraising. And as you're growing and as you're trying to acquire more, you want to even be more efficient. And it's like they said earlier, there was a lot of new, and now, it's been 10 years and you're accumulating more, and how do you continue growing that, right? So I think there's a lot of different ways. I would just say from my perspective, and I analyze the market, is Arreva. Arreva is providing that all-in-one online fundraising and donor relationship management and healthcare hospitality for organizations like the Ronald McDonald Houses and things of that sort, or hospitality organizations that are providing, because it's a combination even on that front of managing and administrating the people that are visiting you, all the way through the fundraising efforts and managing and segmenting out and tracking things by household. So I appreciate that question, and that would be my answer today. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I can dive into a little bit here. I know that we've kind of spent a lot of time laying out the challenge of donor acquisition, and I know it can feel, really difficult to reach new donor audiences or convert those potential supporters into the active contributors. And so, we recognize those challenges, but we want to kind of help you overcome those, right? And so you might be wondering, what are some strategies that can help you acquire these new supporters? And so we have really two here that we've mentioned we want to focus on today. As kind of my area of expertise here, I do want to acknowledge that promoting matching gifts can be a really great way to increase that acquisition rate and pull donors into your cause. You might be wondering why or how, though. And so I have some numbers on the screen here that kind of help that. And so we know that matching gift communications can increase conversion, because when donors know that whatever they contribute, their own impact could be amplified without them necessarily having to dig deeper into their pocket, that's really going to encourage them to get involved. I always like to say that matching gift communications can kind of stick out in this crowded communication landscape, right? I think donors oftentimes hear the same appeals, like donate now, give today, make a donation, right? But if you can accompany that appeal with a little bit of a matching gift component too, that can actually help your appeal oftentimes become more effective and more likely to be kind of seen or heard. The proof is really in those numbers. So we know that 84% of donors are more likely to donate if their gifts are matched. 71% more donors respond to fundraising appeals mentioning matching. Again, I think that just helps you kind of think about that responsiveness piece. That matching gift appeal is super differentiated. It's likely to stick out. It's something that your donors are going to want to learn more about. And then we also know that a 51% increase in donation amount results from mentioning matching. I think donors are just obviously kind of inspired by the thought of their gift growing, so they're encouraged to give more than they might have originally. So definitely some elements of donor psychology at play there. And that kind of shows you the matching gift opportunity of what you can do or the results that you can see from incorporating matching gifts. But of course, the other thing that we've touched on throughout is just personalized touch points in general. I think personalization is the ultimate acquisition tool. Like we said, that communication landscape is crowded. Donors get a lot of kind of generic mass messaging, but when that communication feels like it was crafted with them in mind, it feels like you understand who they are, kind of how they might want to give, that's going to become more relevant to them, and their responsiveness is really going to increase. And so I think personalization also is kind of this really great way to capture that attention, improve your outcomes, and really build this sense of trust with the donor and enhance their overall experience. So if you can, we'll talk through some strategies today, but I think, incorporating those matching gift elements and that personalization piece are two really great ways to help with that acquisition.
And Mackenzie, I do have one question. This comes from Christopher. He wants to know how many markets may exist for matching fund and asset acquisitions.
Yeah, and I think, great question. As I'm thinking about from my perspective, kind of corporate matching gifts in general, the great news is that, 65% of Fortune 500 companies offer matching gift programs. So that's a huge number in and of itself. We know that over 26 million individuals qualify for corporate matching gifts, which obviously means that likely some donors that you already have or could reach are eligible. So there's really just this huge matching gift opportunity out there for you to really harness at your organization. Of course, besides corporate matching gifts, there are other ways that you can incorporate matching into your fundraising strategy as well. So through major donors, et cetera. So I think that there really are a lot of opportunities to, incorporate that matching gift into your fundraising efforts and use that as a way to acquire these donors. So definitely a lot of opportunity out there.
So let's start with some ideas, strategies, increasing donor acquisition through personal touch points and matching gifts. And I think we have a great great few ideas on this stuff, and we'll get started on how to identify and reach and acquire new donors, and with target marketing campaigns. I know, Chris, you've had a lot of experience on doing the research and things. Maybe you could really touch on the analysis, the segmentation, and things of that.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I also want to just make a real quick comment because Beth in the chat asked, having her comment was having great tech is nice, but it takes a lot of time and money to really acquire new donors. And I don't disagree, but I don't think it has to be super expensive. I think you have to work on efficiency to become more efficient in what you're doing. And I know that sometimes small organizations are already struggling with all the things that they're doing. But really, I do think there is ways of doing what we're talking about that aren't onerous, either because of the time involved or the money involved. So I'll talk a little bit about some of these things. And as David mentioned, these are items that I've been working with nonprofits for over 25 years now. So some of this is experience, but some of this is data driven as well. And the struggles that I am seeing on the client success side with our clients are, number one, just identifying your donors and who they are and what's their capacity to give and their propensity and affinity to give, and how do you know that, and then knowing your donors overall, and then scaling that ability internally to be able to make those connections with your donors, and with the resources that you do have, and then for those donors you do have, nurturing those relationships and maximizing those contributions, right, is what it's all about. And that's all these bullet points that we're talking about. So how do you know your donors besides the data that you do have? And the data that you do have is incredibly valuable, and you have to make sure that is quality data that you're keeping track of. Too often, one of the biggest issues I see with our clients is that their data, that the quality of the data entry is inconsistent, and the data that they're using to identify prospects is either missing, or it's not consistent and it's unreliable. So that if I'm saying one thing today, it's to create a procedures manual of how data goes into your system and how to get it out too, because that is a big issue for a lot of our clients. All right, but in general, you can supplement the data that you do have with external data sources, such as prospect research firms out there. We partner with 2 companies that will supplement the data that you have on your prospects and your donors with other data, including analysis on what their capacity to give is, and what their propensity and affinity is with your organization. That's incredibly important, because you could have someone that's giving you $20 a year, and then they're able to give you $20,000, right? And you're leaving money on the table, and that's really key to that goes back to that efficiency piece. Don't spend a lot of time trying to get a bunch of little donations from people when some people can give you a lot more. And how do you know that other than through prospect research, right? And then data analysis and segmentation, segmenting prospective donors based on key criteria, so you can be more targeted in your outreach, which David and I and Mackenzie will talk about too, and really trying to speak to those donors. Anytime you segment supporters or potential supporters, it opens that door for that deeper personalization, increased emotional connections. When you're speaking to a specific group rather than the entire audience, your tailored message is more likely to resonate and get that donation. Ultimately, is what it comes down to, right? So what are some segments to consider? What's their capacity for major gifts? I was just talking about that. Do they have relationships with other donors or staff members or board members? Do they have an affinity for your cause? How do you even know? Are you tracking the information to understand that? There are other philanthropic indicators, like there's board membership and volunteer history that you can get through these prospect research firms as well. And then, getting back to that messaging, creating compelling targeted marketing campaigns that resonate with the right audience, right? Do you send a generic, ask to all your prospects, or do you tailor your messaging to their interests and their capacity? That's really, really important. So I don't know if Mackenzie, David, do you have anything else to talk about here?
Well, I think building on that and really identifying that's really where it gets to knowing your audience. There's a big gap of your donors. It could be, young donors. It could be family members that are now becoming donors. It could be students that you've been educating on. I mean, it could be across the board, any type of donor. And I think, Chris, to your point, when you're doing this data analysis and you're really doing the segmentation and understanding what groupings there are, this is where it can start creating a truly compelling marketing campaign that's more personalized and that's going to resonate with the audience. I mean, and it could be whatever that audience is, but you've got to understand that from having that ability to, segmenting that data. And then once you're really building out these campaigns don't necessarily have to go to the same places. I mean, certain campaigns may go to certain social media outlets, right? Meaning it could go to LinkedIn, it could go to TikTok, it could go to, Instagram. I mean, there's so many that are out there, but if you really do understand your audience and you know where they're residing, you really want to have, them to really identify, this is just another way of really understanding what are the different marketing channels, what are the different platforms. And that's not necessarily just social media. Some of your audience may just be an email marketing campaign that would be coming, maybe it's an automated email marketing campaign. Maybe it's not. Maybe you don't have that. Maybe it's just a constant contact, but you're resonating and you can segment those people, whoever they are on that list, and write a nice email out to them. But, that's where that channel starts going on. And then, Mackenzie, I know you had some really great points about the different types of campaigns for fundraising gifts.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with everything that's been said so far. I think knowing your donors is important, and then using that knowledge to craft really targeted campaigns is going to obviously increase your conversion and get you that efficiency. I think within those targeted campaigns that you create, of course, you can also use some matching gift touch points or mentions, I think, to increase that success even further. We talked about this a little bit before, but obviously supporters are going to listen to those matching gift appeals. And so whenever you can leverage that, I think that you'll see a lot of success. I think as you incorporate matching gifts into those campaigns, there are a few things that I want to call out to keep in mind. And this was kind of mentioned in the chat before, but remember that donors are oftentimes just unaware whether or not their company has something like this in place, right? They're not sure whether or not they would qualify. And so if within those digital marketing channels, like maybe on LinkedIn, right, you want to kind of take the lead here and promote matching gifts proactively, you can kind of drive that awareness and move donors along that journey, because they're going to want to get involved with your organization. They realize the impact their gift could have. They want to take advantage of that employer program too. And so that's really just going to get them really excited and empowered to get involved. I think fortunately incorporating this into any of those campaigns that you're creating is a relatively low lift. It can really be simple messaging such as, did you know many employers match their employees' charitable contributions? See if your impact could be doubled, right? Again, really simple messaging, but that's going to kind of create this sense of urgency, pique the interest of your audience, and encourages them to go ahead and kind of learn about the programs and get involved with your cause if they, discover that they qualify. You can see here that I mentioned it's really important to kind of provide education too. So just remember, like I said before, that a lot of times your donors need help determining if they qualify. So if you're going to be promoting matching gifts, just be prepared to answer some common questions that they might have, such as if their company has a program, what the typical request process might be, what some common deadlines are, how matching gift benefits them, right? Like basic answers like that, I think is going to be really powerful. And if you can provide that information to your donors, that's going to be most effective at really aiding that acquisition.
Mackenzie, I just want to throw one thing. I love the fact, because I think there was a question in here, is I wish, companies would tell their employees about matching gifts. And I think that's a really wonderful thing. But the way that you just said it is doing that indirectly, because if you're sharing that, and some people don't even realize when they're giving a donation that they can actually do a matching gift with their company. So I think as that simple messaging, maybe when you're sending that out as a donation, hey, please check if your company gives a matching gift, just will resonate very, very well. And the ones that I've seen have done it, they have been somewhat, I won't say 100% successful, but they are reaching back and then they're putting in. You also have to make sure that your system allows in the online side that you can accept matching gifts, whether you've integrated with the double donations, or even if you haven't, that they have that capability at a minimum, even to put that name in so you could do it manually. Of course, it's a lot easier when you do integration with the double donations and it comes up and does that for you. But you've got to have that readily available online and making everything user donor centric in my perspective as well. So I think that combination plays very, very well, Mackenzie.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree. It would be great if companies did provide more education to their employees about it. But if as a nonprofit, you can kind of sit in the driver's seat, you're going to reap a lot of the benefits because you kind of are at that targeted point to help donors through the matching gift process, right? They're going to have that double impact on your cause. And so I think they're going to like that messaging coming from you too, and they'll kind of listen and get involved. And I 100% agree with your point too, David, about making sure that you have a means to kind of make sure donors are submitting those matching gifts and kind of tracking them along the way. And I think we'll get to this later, but you're kind of hinting a little bit about making sure that you know where your donors work, right? We have on here that you should do data analysis, know things about your donors, their traits, one of those being where they work so that you can help them uncover that eligibility, which I know we'll get into later, but I definitely agree, David.
All right. These are great conversations. Okay, so knowing and understanding your donors, we already touched on this quite a bit already, just through some organic conversations we're having, which is great. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier about having quality data. You have to know and understand your donors and have information on them. And I talk to a lot of executive directors and development directors, and they have an incredible amount of information about their donors and prospects in their head. But it's institutional memory. It's not documented, and having a system in place that allows you to take that information that's sitting in people's heads and put them into a database that you can then use to segment those prospects and those donors is key. So get that information out of your head and get it into your solution, so you can then start doing your donor segmentation and tailoring those communications and creating those meaningful relationships. And provide thoughtful and effective stewardship is what it's all about, But there's also other ways to how do you get that information to understand who they are, besides some of those things I talked about earlier, like using prospect research. Well, you could survey and get feedback from your own donors, right? And understand better how are they affiliated with your organization? What are their interests? Do they like a certain program you're running? Are they volunteering for you? And do you have a solution in place that's tracking all that, where you can see all that information and use it to segment your donors all in one place? That is key. And then being able to analyze the data, trends, patterns, seeing that information, gaining those insights, and making those data-driven decisions with that data is also very important. Having the reporting capacity to be able to use that data analysis to segment and send out those communications is key. Donor stewardship and relationship building. Do you know? I think there's a lot of information too, and linkages between your board and your staff and prospects and donors that you should be tracking as well. Does your tech allow you to track those relationships between all those different groups, so that you can uncover and unearth prospects you didn't even know existed, and actually use those connections and those relationships to make those asks from people? That's also huge. I don't know, David, Mackenzie, do you have anything else to add to that?
If I could, I was just going to add on to what I was
Sure.
talking about a little bit before with that employment information. So Chris, you did a lot here of talking about, analyzing your donor data to gain those insights. And I want to just kind of mention that you might have donor employment information on hand, or if you don't already, it's something that you can pretty easily collect. And that can be really valuable to you as well. I often get the questions of, how often should you ask for employment information? And I think, we know employment information can go out of date quickly. So I think asking your donors kind of early and often is really important. I think that employment information, of course, can then aid you in a lot of ways. We talked about matching gifts and helping donors kind of uncover their eligibility and take their matching gift next steps through their company. So that's one way that information can benefit you. If you're thinking of other use cases as well, I think having employment information on hand can sometimes, help you hint at some wealth data. Employment information might not be enough to uncover maybe a major donor, but it can certainly be a starting point, right? And it can help you get to know these donors on a deeper level and perhaps hint at their kind of capacity to give. So those are just two common use cases that you might see there. But I think that the point being that this is another really great, sometimes overlooked piece of information that can help you get to know your donors better and communicate with them better, and then target audiences like them that you think might be interested in supporting your cause in the future. So I just wanted to kind of call out that as another example of the type of information you could be looking for to help your acquisition and, you know, even retention efforts down the road.
I want to interject one question. We did get a question about donor surveys. Can you speak a little bit more about donor surveys and the kinds of questions you should be asking on them?
Yeah,
Well, I think,
go ahead,
yeah, go
David.
ahead, Chris. No, please, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I have seen examples. I will have to go back and maybe we could provide some afterwards, some samples to people when we send out information. But I would have to go back and look at them up. But David, if you have any more information, please go.
No, I think finding some examples would be great, but I think the when you're doing a donor survey, you know, and you're thinking about the audience, what do you really want to know for them, right? And I don't just mean that you want money from them, but what do you want to learn from them, you know? And if you can really think about the things that you would like to learn from your existing donors, you know, what are their interests? You know, and I could give you a few different examples, but what are their interests, you know, and it could be, as opposed to just an open-ended question, it could be a box that's open-ended. It could be some different items. You know, do you have interest in, you know, participating in events? Do you have interest in our newsletters? Do you have interest in, you know, in learning more about the organization? Would you like to see a tour of our organization? I mean, these are just some examples of questions on the survey that you would want. Do you like getting do you like getting emails? Do you like getting texts? Do you like, I mean, there's a lot of this stuff already going on online, right? Because of that whole GDPR ruling, and they don't want to inundate you, so you've got to opt it in. But if you're sending these type of surveys out and getting this type of feedback and really learning from that, even in that case, you can go identify the people that did respond on the survey and start even doing a little bit more preferencing on them. Don't send them emails, send them texts, maybe put a task in there. I mean, it could be as granular as that. But when you're getting this type of feedback, you know, do you like our impact studies? There's just so many other things that you could do, and we could have a separate meeting on this. But just think about the things that you're doing today. Think about the things that you're not doing today that you're thinking about doing, and get that feedback. Is it of interest to them? Because, you know, a lot sometimes that we do, it could be just feel good, and we talk about this a lot. So we do a lot of things, and then we'll do a survey, and then we find that what made us really feel good, maybe the results weren't as good as what we thought. And then, you know, if you're really, and we'll talk a little bit more about analyzing and tracking, but these are just really important things that you want to get out of this. It's not just a survey that you're just getting, it's a survey that you're really going to analyze, and then you're going to do something with it, right? It's going to have some level of impact to your organization. But, you know, even when you do that, you know, it goes back to, which we'll now talk about, you know, the communicating part. How do you communicate with this? You know, I mean, you really, you know, what does it really mean to communicate your story with impact? I mean, that's how you have to look at it. You have to share what's compelling differentiator, because there's so many nonprofits all within a very local radius. And we know that you're competing with so many different people. You're competing with, you know, so many wonderful organizations. You know, everybody wants to get with everybody. I mean, that just, so why should a donor, and this is what you need to think about, why does a donor want to choose you to support your cause? What is it that I would want to go, or maybe I'm giving somebody else, and I know a lot of changes have been made where people aren't, maybe they're giving the same amount of a dollar, but now they're distributing that dollar to multiple people. So how do you get a piece of that? And why would they want to do that? And then how will your donation at any level, right, have an impact, right? Because we talk about impact reports, right? And I've seen some wonderful, wonderful things that if you want to see the impact, click here and it takes them back to their website. You know, one of those examples, and I think it's still up, and I truly loved it, was a Boys and Girls Club of Salt Lake City. Gabby, I don't know if you have the link, and if you could post the link just so everybody that would go directly to that impact, but it showed the levels. And this was, by the way, this was just one way, right? There's so many different ways of doing this, right? There's videos, there's infographics, there's testimonials, there's case studies. But when you could do a very one pager and showing, you know, how many meals or how many programs I supported, or how many people I actually trained internally, or whatever that would be, it's so meaningful, you know, and at the same time, you know, you're doing storytelling. I mean, we talk about storytelling all the time. I hear everybody, I get marketing, hey, we can help you with better storytelling, but you're living the story. You're living the results of what you're doing. You're providing these wonderful programs. You're helping children. You're helping adults. Whatever your organization is, animals. It could be so many different things. But you know, convey that message, and then convey the impact that those donors, those volunteers, those board members are really having on that, and how that is actually changing. And you want to share those personal stories, as we say it, and highlight the challenges that you face. Don't be afraid, I mean, to tell, hey, my God, this is happening right now. I mean, and a piece of that, talk about the journey, and then make sure you talk about those positive outcomes, because I want to feel good even if I gave $10, or I gave 100,000, or I gave 100,000. You know, it doesn't matter the level. You have to really share that and make it easy. I mean, that's what we talk about when we're talking about visual content. You've got to have where you can do a video on this, and maybe you're you know, I've seen so many wonderful different videos, but showcasing the organization, and that those just as some of the things, you know, from the communication side of this.
Yeah, and if I could add on too, I know that we have that call out at the bottom here, but something that we've talked about throughout as we're talking about, like, if you're looking to incorporate matching gifts into that outreach that you have as well, it might sometimes seem abstract for a donor, kind of what that matching gift impact is. So I think making sure that as you're thinking about storytelling and showing donors the impact that they can have on your mission, being sure to kind of tell the outcomes made possible by these matching gift programs too is another really great way to encourage donors to get involved with their program, and, you know, really participate in it as well. So I think that the value of storytelling, you know, is really important. If you're asking a donor to volunteer, you want to use storytelling to show them what they can make possible. If you're asking them to give, if you're asking them to get their gift matched, whatever it is, weaving storytelling into that is really going to kind of improve your success rates.
So there's so many other ways. I mean, we talk about implementing, and you hear about this, and sometimes it's confusing. I don't understand what multi-channel marketing strategy is, and how do I make it easy to give in multiple ways, right? You know, I think, you know, the point here, first of all, is when you look at statistics, and 61% of donors worldwide prefer to giving online, you got to make your website what I would consider a donor-centric website. It's got to be user-friendly. It's got to be easy to communicate. One of the most important things that I've seen is when you can keep them on your website, you will see site engagement go up. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, whether they're giving a donation, whether they're registering for an event, whether they're registering for, you know, an online pledge, whether they're creating a pledge, whether they're paying a pledge, whether they're participating in a team fundraising or peer-to-peer, you know, raise through their friends. For me, when you have them captured on your website and they're filling out this information, they click submit, you want them to be able to stay on your website. I really think this is one of the most important things. And go check your website today. If they're being pushed off because your donation vendor or your event vendor or your campaign vendor is taking them off the website and marketing their site, you don't want that. You want them, and there's multiple ways of doing this, but you will see site engagement go up. And then what do you want them to do when they're on your website? So you need that flexibility. Do they stay on that page? Do you redirect them? But you want to make sure that they want to stay on that page. So making this a donor centric and making it user friendly, I think, is just a very important thing. Whether you redirect them to the impact, if it was a donation and how their donations are, or an event and how the event helped previous years. I mean, there's just so many different ways. And then you do want, you know, you do want to give many different ways, your donors, your active volunteers, your board members, different ways of even promoting and giving, right? So there's just so many different ways, whether it's an unlimited donation page, meaning if you could just think about it this way, and I think Gabby has a good example of an unlimited donation page. But if you think about ways to give and somebody clicks on it, they've got to click on it and go to it. But if you were doing it and segmenting out and saying, hey, please give it a different way, and it's all on one page and it's easy. I've seen so many different ways of doing this without having to be a development shop. You know, I saw somebody, we're a small shop, well, this should be done for a small shop or a medium shop. It doesn't matter. And then providing a peer-to-peer giving. I mean, it's another way, peer-to-peer, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, but it's just another way through awareness and donor acquisition. I mean, it's just pretty amazing. And then you always want to have, which I will always call a clear call to action. I think it's really important on doing this. And in fact, Gabby, I think you had one of the Ronald McDonald Houses of New Mexico as a good example, right? Did
She
you?
just
I
put
don't
it in
know
the
if
chat.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
good.
put it in the chat, David.
Thanks. I just wasn't looking at the chat. I'll distract my talking. So,
Mhm.
but anyways, having something very, very visually appealing, whether it's a donation
Mhm.
page, whether it's a event page, whether how it's linking to your website, whether it's an email campaign that you're sending out and trying to get them back. However that is, make it easy for the donor to find a donation button. I mean, I was on with a vendor actually, and they said, David, we have so many clients in the faith-based side, and when you go to the faith-based side, I can't find the donation. And it was really difficult. And as simple as you may think that, it wasn't easy. So you've got to make it very simple and very intuitive on your website for all types of pages. And just have a good, clear call to action on that stuff.
Yeah, that link that Gabby put in the chat is a great example of tying the impact to the donation, right? As having a solution for online giving that gives you that flexibility to create pages like that really, tie the amount they're giving to the impact that it's having. That's a great example. Thanks for sharing, Gabby.
All right.
And I can jump in here for this one. I think kind of in that theme of making it easy for donors, obviously, if you're going to be promoting matching gifts and trying to use it kind of as that fundraising magnet, you also want to make it really easy for the donor to get involved. And so really to create the best donor experience, you're going to want to integrate matching gifts into that donation flow. So it's super simple. There are really two things that you can do to do this. The first of which being just collect employment information during the donation process. So just add a field to your donation form that asks donors to enter that information. The key here, though, is to make sure that you provide a little bit of context why you're asking, right? So rather than just naming the field something like employer or company, I think if you can expand the way you name that field to get the donor excited while they're giving, that's going to be the best case scenario. So you could say something like enter your employer name to see if your donation could be doubled, or double or triple your gift, enter the name of your business to search for a matching gift, right? That little bit of context can go a really long way and can help you really make sure that donors finish that donation process while they're on your form, because they're going to want to see if they qualify and see if they could have that double impact. From there, I think the next best practice when it comes to integrating matching into that donation flow is just to provide some sort of next steps or messaging on your confirmation page. So once that donor has submitted that gift, they're now kind of in that place to request a match from their employer. You want to make it easy for them to understand how to do so. If you can provide the donor really personalized next steps based on kind of that employment information they did enter on the form, that's the best donor experience. But I know that that might not be possible for every organization. So even if you just include a line on your confirmation page, like contact your HR department to learn more, or you list a few companies with matching gift programs and what that typical request process could look like, that's another really great step forward, right? That's really maintaining the giving momentum and giving donors kind of this idea of how to access their next steps and take advantage of that program. So I know that these are fairly simple suggestions, but I think the impact of just including matching in some way in that process can be powerful in, yes, donor acquisition, which we're talking about, but then kind of maintaining that engagement with the donor as well. That's going to lead to that long-term retention for you as they get involved with your organization in multiple ways.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Mackenzie. Go ahead, Gabby.
Sorry, no, I just want to interject some questions that are coming in around matching gifts. Some people have been mentioning that it does take some time to process donations from corporate matching gifts, but what is the average timeline for when a nonprofit will receive their matching gift? Is there one?
That's a really good question. And unfortunately, it is so dependent on company to company because every company has their own process in place for how they're distributing those funds. And they have their own deadlines for when employees need to request that match, right? But I think if you're looking to kind of stay in the know and you want to have an idea of when to expect to receive those funds, really the best case scenario is to stay in contact with the donor, right? So if you're providing donors next steps or you're sending matching gift follow-up emails, you want to kind of have a way to track if donors have, gone to that matching gift form, or have a way for the donor to let you know, hey, I submitted that match, because then you can know to be on the lookout for those funds specifically, right? So if you can have the donor report in some way, I've submitted a match, that's going to help you kind of stay on track and be on the lookout for those funds so that you can process them at your organization.
And are you able to see a list of companies that match donations? Like, let's say it was a smaller company.
Yeah, that's a good question. Of course, I think, companies oftentimes maybe on their website, in their CSR reports, et cetera, will list information about their matching gift program. At Double the Donation, we do have a database of like 24,000 companies that have matching gift programs, including some smaller companies and more regional companies, right? It's not just the big guys anymore. But we have a lot of really great educational resources as well, even if you don't use our product, that lists some of companies with those programs in place.
Okay.
Well, I think talking about, there's so many different ideas, and unfortunately we're always limited with time, and we're running out of time. So I just want to, we picked a couple just to share it with you, but tribute gifts and memorial gifts. And I think it was really important because what we find is that 33% of donors worldwide give tribute gifts. And one of the problems in the industry when it comes to tribute gifts is that the time it takes for organizations to provide an acknowledgement to the honoree of the person that is receiving the tribute gift, which definitely has an impact, not only to the donor acquisition, but also on the donor engagement and retention. And the reason that is today a lot of systems are set up where when they go in and they give a tribute gift, and I want to say one other thing, there's an alignment. You've got to remember there's an alignment, right? If I'm giving a tribute gift, regardless whether it's an honor of or in memory of, and I'm giving it to that person, there's an alignment of that person and the organization, or I would give it to somebody else. And this is part of donor acquisition and a big part of donor acquisition, but it also plays very strongly into donor retention. And we have been traveling quite a bit and talking to many, many people, including board members. And I literally 3 days ago, I left a board member and they were telling me, I always give a tribute gift to the people that I think would be aligned, whether they are part of this organization or not. And one of my biggest frustrations, and it is probably going to be the last time, I've given a number of tribute gifts and I am on the board. I don't get an acknowledgement that they acknowledge the person, because when I fill out the information, I click submit, all of it goes to the organization. In some cases, David, it took them probably at a minimum 3 weeks, which still wasn't acceptable. The last one, it took them 3 months. I made 3 phone calls. I asked, oh, we're so sorry, we're going to get it out this week. I mean, because everybody is just so busy. You want to have that ability on your tribute where you can put in the person's name, put in their email address, write a comment, click submit, and that person that you're honoring is getting that acknowledgement instantaneously. The organization should know that. So the person that is giving that tribute gift feels good. The second thing is they should receive all the information, both from the person that's giving, as well as who the person he gave it to. And then from a donor acquisition point, you can go and segment that person that received that tribute gift, see if they're in your donor database. If they're not, then you do an outreach, and then you acknowledge the gift, and then you ask if they would love to learn more. Could I put you on our newsletter? Could I send you an event? I mean, you've got to ask these questions. You can't assume them, because when you do ask the questions and they say yes, they're more than likely to open your email. If you don't ask the question and you send it to them, they're more than likely to opt out completely and don't want to receive anymore. But this is a really great way of receiving tribute gifts. It's a great way of, people that are tied to your organization that are giving. And when you do know there's 33%, and I go back to the question, how do we let corporations know? Well, you need to let your donors know when you have this set up this way, that if they gave a tribute, they're going to get an automatic acknowledgement through you directly. Feel free to send a comment. But I think these are just some of the really important ways. So that's one way of getting an increase in donor acquisition. It's another way that you're letting technology work for you. At the same time, you've got to build some things. You've got to think about a tribute wall. You've got to recognize the people that are giving those tribute gifts, and not just individually. I think personalized certifications, or certificates, and mailing it to them, and having that personalized, maybe a living memorial wall, social media tributes, if it's appropriate, where you can publicize that such and such just gave a tribute gift to this in honor of that person. We want to recognize that. I mean, when you're acknowledging people in so many different ways, and then just you have to express recognition and gratitude always. I mean, I can't emphasize it enough, whether it's, and it has to go beyond just an automatic acknowledgement and thank you, which hopefully your systems are set up that way, and then notifications to the individual and your staff. But take it a step further, make that personal phone call, because people want that acknowledgement. I don't care who they are, whether they're giving a $1 donation, a $10 donation. And personally, I know it because I live it. And when somebody calls me after I even register for an event, or I gave a donation, or I gave a reoccurring donation, and they call, I literally remember it. It's lasting. So, make that difference. And that's why I think tribute gifts are so important, because 33% of giving. Chris, Mackenzie, anything on tributes?
Yeah, the majority of those are from new donors. It's a great way to acquire donors, and facilitating the ease of giving. I can't believe how many online donation forms I've seen that don't even have the ability to give, an honor or memorial gift at all, and much less track the people who want to be notified on behalf of those memorials as well, which you should have, and also manage on the back end in your donor relationship management piece as well, to easily create a list for your tribute walls, and to send out those notifications to people who want to be notified on behalf of those memorials. Absolutely.
And then just another wonderful way is peer-to-peer fundraising. I've talked to so many people, and I think peer-to-peer fundraising can be used in so many different ways, and it has to be integrated with your current platform. It can't be like a GoFundMe, which I think is a great product for an individual that needs something or wants to help a friend that's not affiliated with a nonprofit. But if somebody is going to build a page and send this page out, and explain why they're sending this out, you want it to be directly tied directly into your donor relationship management platform. Why? Because not only are you getting the money, you're also getting the information. If you're only getting a check from a group of people and it's one check from one person, you're never going to get that building on that donor acquisition. So when somebody is building this page, they're sending it out to their friends. It's a great way. They can write what they want. They can explain what the donation is for. They can put a time frame around it. I mean, I know, Mackenzie, you mentioned that earlier about one of your examples of time frames. That sense of urgency of why I'm raising $30,000, or why I'm raising $300,000, or why I'm raising $3,000. The amount doesn't matter, but having a time frame around that, and the reason why you're doing that, the messaging. It also, when they're giving a donation, they can see a leaderboard. You can have a leaderboard. You can send out the right messaging. You should have the ability through peer-to-peer fundraising even to send this out through their own individual social media. So they're helping create more awareness. And anybody that clicks on it is going directly back to the organization, onto the page. The donation is being accepted. Everybody is receiving some sort of acknowledgement, meaning if the donor gives a donation towards Mackenzie is going to get notified that that individual gave it. The organization is going to get notified. And the person that gave a donation is going to get an automatic thank you acknowledgement receipt. So it's 3 different levels. And then the organization, if they can segment out their donor database and say, because maybe you can't acknowledge them right that day, right? Maybe you got it, but you're busy, or you're at a meeting, or you're running an event. But it should be easy to go into your donors and segment that out and say, I want to see everybody that gave any type of donation or registration or membership or whatever that was in the last 7 days. And then you can, distribute that to your staff or yourself, and then make those phone calls and acknowledge those people. But these are just some of the other ways of really, truly acquiring new donors. It's a fantastic way of doing this.
Yeah.
And then you just want to, again, you want to have, the support is you're allowing them to create their own personality pages. I say it that way. You can create team challenges. You can have fundraising events and encourage supporters to host, their own event. Even doing it virtually today, we've seen some wonderful things. And then, if you want a certain message, you can write the message and let them know, hey, if you're sending this, even in the peer-to-peer fundraising, they can write their message, but you could have a tab, or should have a tab, that puts your message in there too. So you can have pre-written posts. So anybody that's doing this is having the ability to see from both sides of this.
Yeah, it really goes back to, what I mentioned earlier, where someone said, how do this takes time and money to acquire new donors. I mean, the beauty of peer-to-peer is it amplifies your fundraising efforts, like beyond the list of donors and prospects that you're dealing with. And, these new donors are coming through this network of donors who are fundraising on behalf of your organization, right? It allows your staff, your board member, your volunteers, et cetera, to ask for donations through this peer-to-peer campaign. And sometimes those people may otherwise not want to directly ask for money on behalf of your organization, especially face to face. So it's a great tool.
Yeah, I think that those peer-to-peer fundraisers obviously can be a really quick way to reach a lot of new supporters. And I think as you're connecting all of those new supporters to your cause, and you get them for the first time, showing them new ways that they can get involved with your organization past that donation as well, finding ways to connect with these donors that you acquired through peer-to-peer campaigns and keep them involved is a really great way to build out your success from them as well. But obviously those peer-to-peer campaigns can just be a really huge boost to your acquisition efforts, I think, pretty immediately.
For time, we'll just try to wrap this up. I just think here, expressing personalized gratitude, I can't emphasize it enough. I mean, you could give to 3 different organizations, and the one that acknowledges you and really sets some sort of task up that they're reaching you every 90 days on a phone call, not necessarily really understanding what your gift was, but really personalizing things and just use there's so many different ways. And again, I go back to that segmentation that Chris and Mackenzie both mentioned about understanding that maybe they only want a text message, maybe they want an email, maybe they want to see something on social media. But those are just really important things. The consistency of acknowledgement in any way that you can think about is probably one of the most important things on anything that you guys are doing today. Chris?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I mean, I I've seen too many times, and really, the solutions you're using should automate this, right? Anytime someone's giving online, that thank you should be going out automatically. That's exactly what our solution does, right? But even when you're manually entering donations on the back end in your donor relationship management piece, you got a big stack of checks. You should have a solution that allows you to have multiple letter templates and email templates that you can assign to each gift as you're entering them, so that you are personalizing and tailoring that thank you to not only the size of the donation, but also what are they supporting and reinforcing that thank you and that gratitude. And then also, when you do have people, let's say they're giving over $200, do you want to give a personal thank you? I think you should. And can your solution automate an email with a report that goes to you every Monday saying, here's all the donors that have given $200 or more? So you get that list in your inbox on a Monday and express that gratitude to them even more. Again, going back to that efficiency piece, you can do this, and I know you think it takes time and money, but with the right tech in place, solutions in place, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think, if I could just quickly jump in, I know we're close on time here, but I think when you express that gratitude and have really strong stewardship aspects like this, that can oftentimes aid you in donor acquisition too, because when a donor feels appreciated, they feel like you value them, they got this personalized piece of communication, they're more likely to share their experience with your organization and kind of what their donation meant with their network, which is obviously going to get you more exposure and can kind of have these multiplying effects. So I think that gratitude piece can't be overlooked.
That's great, Mackenzie. Yeah, absolutely. And just really 2 slides. And then if you'd like to listen to who we are from both Arreva, we'll talk a little bit about that and double the donations. But just to wrap it all up, I just love to end this with a wonderful case study. This is an organization, it's called Cure GSD. And they literally were a grassroots organization. It was literally 100% a volunteer organization. They had a goal to raise $8 million. I don't know how they came up with a number that would help cure a deficiency within glycogen. And they did everything. Everything that we talked about today, they built their database, they segmented out, they knew who their audience was. They used all different sources. They were using peer-to-peer fundraising for 18-year-olds trying to raise money in New York, where they were located here in Florida. The wonderful news, and I always get goosebumps when I talk about this, but their challenge was raising the $8 million. They did so many different types of events. They communicated the events. They communicated the impact when they were raising money. They came up with their own standard gift from the heart campaign, and what that was, it was re-engaging 20 years worth of donors and volunteers, and they did an amazing job. And the end results of everything that they've done and still doing, and now and the reason I say I got goosebumps is they literally, as part of doing this, and we were just the technology behind it, and they built 2 different websites. Their first website was a pure fundraising to get this moving. Now it's still fundraising website, donor-centric website, but very more informational. They actually achieved one of their first goals, which was finding a cure for type 1, their first type 1 deficiency with glycogen. And it's just a really wonderful thing. But it's nice when you find different case studies that people are really using all the things that we're talking about. And there was a lot more, but if you'd like to learn more, let us know. And then the last slide is if you'd like to fundraising, Gabby, you want to?
Yeah, so if there's anything that you saw here today, there were some questions about software, different applications, donation pages, peer-to-peer fundraising, reports, email communications, anything that we covered today that you'd like to learn more about, please let us know. I'll keep this poll up, and then I'll let David walk through a little bit about what we do here at Arreva. If you want to keep going through, David, while people answer this.
Yeah, I'll just share this with you. I know it was literally 74% have 2 or more applications. And I think those in its own right are challenging to many organizations in moving data around. And if you're moving data around, whether you're moving from, an event platform, a donation platform, or any other type of platform, a text-based platform, that's really the point is, that is creating some inefficiencies. And really what you're looking for, and I know somebody asked what platform does that, you really are looking for one unified database that has all the different applications. And you want to make sure also that all these applications, you don't have to buy everything, right? I just want to share with you, Arreva's been around for 30 years. We have over 6,000 clients. Through these 6,000 clients, through different applications, our clients have done over 30,000 live and virtual and different hybrid events and golf events and gala events and all different types. Our software, and I'm really proud to say that it was exclusively built for the nonprofit industry. Not only do we have 6,000 clients, but we have been vetted and approved by many national organizations, even though we have to work with each individual chapters, but it's really great when they vetted and process this. And like the Boys and Girls Clubs, the Jewish Federations, the Rotaries, the Society of St. Vincent de Paul's, Meals on Wheels, and Ronald McDonald House Charities. In fact, I think over 80% of every Ronald McDonald House charity in the world is using some version of our product. I won't get into all the applications, but we really, in our own rights, we've developed quite a few different applications. So you're not having these silos of applications. We also have an incredible client success and services side of the organization. Everything is mobile responsive, but really what's important is the outcomes that our clients are seeing. We talked about donor acquisition today, and our clients are literally seeing that, are really focusing on this, over 300% increase on their donor acquisitions. And because the way we've set this up and they're not leaving their website, they're seeing over 215% increase in site engagement, and they're seeing a return on investment. I mean, there's just some wonderful things. And then there's just a lot of things. We say we're with our clients for good, and we have clients that have been with us for over 20 years, and we're very proud to say that. And then the last thing is, if you'd like to learn more about double donations, we'd love to let us know on that. And here was that survey.
Perfect. And I can dive into a little bit quickly just to overview. So thank you for going through that. Chris, I know we talked a lot about leveraging matching gifts today, but if you're looking for kind of efficient ways to do that, our software can integrate directly with your Arreva Exceed Further solution. That's going to allow you to really automatically identify which of your donors are eligible for matching gifts as they give. So you can embed our database directly into your donation form. Donors will enter their employer name. We kind of compare that against our database, and then on the confirmation page, while donors are still in that giving mindset, you can automatically give them the information they need about their eligibility in their company's program, right? So you can guide them straight to that matching gift submission form, make it really one click for them to go ahead and request that match from their employer. From there, we have some automated email streams as well that are going to allow you to remind donors about that matching gift eligibility and really encourage them to take their next steps. And then in the background, of course, we're helping you track how donors are engaging with your matching gift touch points and kind of progressing through that process as well, just so you have a little bit more insight and are able to know when to expect those funds. So really great solution to help you kind of make the most of matching gifts and harness that form of corporate giving.
And I'll just say, first of all, I want to thank Mackenzie, and I'm really proud to say that we are a fully integrated partner with Double the Donations, and it really works amazingly well. And the clients that are using it are seeing great success. Mackenzie, I want to thank you for joining us today on this panel. I know I got a lot out of it. I hope the audience got out of it. Chris, I'd like to thank you for all your contributions on this, and special thanks to Gabby for putting it all together. Gabby, you're amazing. We appreciate that. But equally, thank you. I want to thank all of you that attended today. We wouldn't be here without you, and we can't thank you enough what you do each and every day with your staff. And I think that's a really important, and the acknowledgement you give to them. And equally as important, what you're doing for the programs that you're harnessing, how you're handling and working in the community at large, and all the other wonderful things. I know there's a lot of challenges that you face each and every day. And if you ever need any help, regardless whether you have our product or not, feel free to reach any of us, because that's what it's all about. We really believe in social good, and we're really happy we're doing what we do today.
Thank you for having us, David. We really appreciate it. And, I appreciated all of your insights today.
Chris?
Thanks, everybody, for joining. Look forward to hopefully talking to you soon.
Gabby?
Thanks, everyone. We'll be sending out a recorded version of the session today, and as well as the PowerPoint presentation for you to review. If you requested demos, we'll make sure that someone from the Arreva team and someone from Double the Donation gets in contact with you as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Gabby, is that it, or?
Yeah, you can hop off. I just, there's a couple names that I'm taking down in the chat box of people who wanted demos.
Awesome. Mackenzie, thank you again. You're awesome, by
Yes.
the way.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a great session.
Yeah, we should do this more often. You're amazing. And Chris, thank you for always.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris is my dancing partner with Gabby. It's a great dancing partnership.
David,
so
you're awesome.
it's always fun to do this stuff. I love doing this stuff.
Yeah,
and,
but
and it's nice. And it really is nice when you get comments like, wow, thank you for a great discussion, or thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for your all insights. I mean, it's nice when people acknowledge us too. So, and you can see that. Thank you. This was great. Thanks, everyone. Keep up the good work. So, it's always nice to hear those things. And
They
we
seem
don't ask
engaged.
it, so,
It's great. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of it. A lot of great questions on this though.
Yeah.
And Mackenzie, thank you. I love the way that you responded on the stats. People were asking, like, this is great stats. Wow, I'm just reading some of this stuff now. I don't know if you guys read these.
Yeah, there was one person questioning, where did you get these stats? And I was going to answer that, but
Ben Mackenzie sent it, right? Mackenzie,
Yeah.
She did.
That
which
was
is
great.
Yeah, we have great resources too, but yeah, it was a really great discussion. I love the way you guys structured it. So thank you guys so much for your help.
Well, let us know when you want to do another one. We would love to do another one with you. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much.
But we
Thank you,
won't,
Gabby.
Mackenzie, you spoiled us. We won't do it with anybody else from the
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
You tell them that. All right. Have a great week.
You too.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye.
Bye, Gabby.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.